is so 'n voorreg om jou hier te hê vandag op Saffa-on-air. Koning David Kramer, welcome to Saffa-on-air.
Hallo, hallo allemaal. Ja, skus toch.
Okay, I'm going to shoot off.
It's vroeg hier so in Suid-Afrika. Ja, vroeg open.
I'm going to shoot off with the questions. Where were you born and bred?
I don't know where I was bred, but I know where I was born. I was born in Worcester in 1951, Woolland Town. Yeah.
All right. So the most of the songs you wrote about the Boland is because you're actually from the Boland. That's good to know. Now, what music did young David take you back? What music did young David listen to?
Okay, so because I was born in 1951, and when 1957 came around, it was a kind of big year for rock and roll. That's when we first started to hear the first sort of American recordings that reached South Africa with rock and roll. So one of the first artists that I listened to was Buddy Holly as a 6-7-year-old. And my brother was a bit older than me. So he had a record player, and he went down to the local record store. And he bought what was called EPs in those days, extended players. You could get you got 4 tracks on a small vinyl record. And he bought Fats Domino, and he also bought Little Richard. And I think Little Richard singing I Got the Heebie-Jeebies is probably the biggest, had the biggest impact on me in terms of that sound. So those early rock and rollers were what I started listening to at a very young age. Then when I was a teenager, it moved over to the UK, and with people like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and all the other Mersey groups, and I started listening to those people, and became aware, I suppose, more of songwriting through the Beatles and Rolling Stones records that I was listening to.
All right, next question. Met watter internasionale kunstenaar, dead or alive, as jy terugkyk, sou jy graag mee wou record it? Now, I know it's difficult because most of your music you sang is in Afrikaans. I know the Paul Simon story, which is classic, but which international artists do you think you would have loved to work with?
I have no interest in that. Never thought about that. It's not an aspiration of mine to record with an international artist or any other artist. I think people don't understand me in that way. I'm an artist, and I pursue my artistic interests, and my artistic interests are not what I suppose entertainers are normally running after, and that's kind of fame and I wouldn't need to. I mean, I'd like to meet some certain people, and I have met very interesting and famous people like Paul Simon and Harry Belafonte and Willie Russell and quite a few others. But no, I wouldn't want to record. There'd be no point in doing that.
So the next question, you might not have an answer to it as well. The reason why I asked this, I just recently read an article when they asked Paul McCartney, which song does he think he would have loved to record? And I think it was Fields of Gold by Sting. He said that is the perfect song to him. Is there any songs that you listen to and go, man, wow?
That I would have liked to have written or recorded, or that I would have liked to have written.
Yeah, you listen to the song and go, man, that is a perfect song.
I think, I mean, I've always been a big admirer of Joni Mitchell as a songwriter. And she's been in the news lately. But when I was a teenager, I came across Joni Mitchell. And I think the first song that I heard that really made an impact on me was Big Yellow Taxi. And then later on, songs like Clouds and so on. So some of her work has been very impressive. And then if I think of Paul Simon, I think Bridge Over Troubled Water is one of the most amazing songs that has been written by a kind of singer-songwriter. Yeah, I'd say. And then, of course, I like Leonard Cohen's work as well. Yeah, and I'm not going to say hallelujah.
But I think you've got a point there, because Counting Crows had a massive hit when they did Yellow Taxi, and then, of course, even Elvis covered. And I think it was one of Elvis's favorite songs, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Now, I want to play you quickly. I hope this is going to work. I want you to listen to this. Nou, jou lyrics, dat is 'n song wat jy sing. Ek dink hulle is op die hemeltrein, maar die duiwel stook die vuur.
Onverwachte.
Ja,
Onverwachte, ja.
Hierdie song, ek luister na hierdie lyrics en jy is 'n creative genius en oorvanaand steek die honger weer soos 'n doringdraad. I can feel the pain. Ek sê nog 'n paar sente vir die leë bottels, maar toe jou oor. Maak oop jou gorrel, die duiwel het al lankal die engeltjies omgepraat. You know, Bertie or homeless person that you talk to, or are you just one of these creative geniuses?
With Botteltjie Blow.
Yes.
Well, yeah, with Botteltjie Blow, I was in my early 20s when I wrote that, and I just moved to Cape Town, and we were living in a flat in Tamboerskloof, and so there was a bottle store nearby, and so there were people who hung, kind of hung around that bottle store, and got drunk in the evening. And there was lots of kind of shouting and screaming in the streets. And I suppose that's the only image that I have that I was kind of referring to. But it just started with a rhyme. It started with me just thinking, vir 'n slang is ek bangie, hulle kan nie vir my vangie. And then came, maar vir jou, my Botteltjie Blow. So I was aware of these people living on the streets, and drinking methylated spirits, pouring it through bread to try and remove the blue. So those things were. It wasn't like I was talking to anyone or particularly making that observation. It was just something I was aware of, and the lyric starts to lead you in a certain direction.
I've gone blockies, and I'm going to take you back to 1981. Now, I know it's more than 300,000 views on YouTube already. Now, here I am, 1981. I was in Standard 8, Graad 10, in an Afrikaanse class. I'm sitting there. My friend, Eric Marks, runs into the class. He says, because we were big, I think it was still Radio 5 then, not 5 of them. He goes,
Ja.
Het jy gehoor? Radio 5 het 'n rugby song gespeel. Ek sê nee, ek kan nie sê. Dis 'n Afrikaanse rugby song. Ek sê no, jy praat nou nonsense. And for the rest of the 2 days, I did not do homework. Well, I normally didn't. Was just waiting for this Afrikaans rugby song. Now, let's just put it out there. Billy Osler, legit. Barney from Boylo, legit. I never heard of a Springbok hooker, so I did research. And there's actually only 3 Ubers that ever played Springbok. The one was Stevie, he played fullback, I think in early 1900s. Then, of course, Andre the Rolls Royce and Marius Joubert. Who is Blokkies Joubert?
Yeah, well, he's like so many of my characters, you know. What I do is I get an idea about something, and then I want to find out more about the background and the environment that this person would have lived in. And it struck me at the time that I had this image of an old man sitting in a hotel, a bar in a hotel next to a railway line, like the Cumberland Hotel in Worcester, and he's one of these guys that wants to tell you about, you know, how there was a time when he was a hero. But nobody remembers him now. That was my starting image. And then he became, and I sort of thought about rugby. And then I started to research. And then that tour of 1931 to the United Kingdom with Benny Osler and those other people I mentioned, he became the fictitious hooker in that team. He wasn't, I don't know, can't remember even who the hooker was, but that's what I do. I mean, I've just done it now in this new musical that I'm presenting called Fair and Evaderl Kitty, where I mix the facts with the fiction. And in the case of Blokkies, he never existed, but he could easily have existed.
Awesome. You've mentioned now Fair and Evaderl Kitty. Now, I know in the 80s you moved to musical theatre, which seems like the genre or your real passion. Now, how did that happen, or when did you think, man, I can do more when it comes to music?
Yeah, so in the early 80s, I had those hits. I'd been writing songs for already right throughout the 70s. And then I released Bakgat in 1981. And then, of course, Blokkies followed that, and that was the big hit, even on Radio 5. Alex J was responsible for playing that. And I think Alex J actually got into a lot of trouble for playing. Yeah, because it wasn't Radio 5's format. And he got wrapped over the knuckles for playing David Kramer. Anyway, so what did I want to tell you about the musical? Okay, so I was writing these songs, character songs, and then my friend Barney Simon, director from the Market Theatre, he said to me, you know, your songs, you could write songs for other people. You shouldn't try and sing your own songs all the time, because you write about these people. Maybe you should put them in the mouths of more of the characters that you're writing about. And we went on to do a concert together in which Elsie Zietsman was one of the support people, and Jennifer Stein. And so I took some of my songs and I rewrote it for them from a female perspective. So Elsie did a song like Betty and Dave from the Belleville Blues song. And so I saw the potential there of writing for other people and realizing that I'm not a pop artist. I'm actually someone who writes situations and characters, and the best place for that would be musical theatre. So in the early 80s, while all the David Kramer kind of stuff was happening on radio with Royal Hotel and Stoksy Lalleen and all of those big hits, and I decided that I wanted to find out more about musical theatre, and so I went overseas to London, and I started going to musical theatre and trying to understand how one, as a writer like myself, could tackle these kind of projects, and that's where my interest started. And the first one I tried to write actually was it was going to be like about Blokkies Hubert and the Royal Hotel, and that was going to be, and I tried to write that, but I wasn't skilled enough at that point to do it, So another few years went by, and then I had this idea of writing a musical set in District 6. And at the same time, I bumped into an old friend of mine, Tally Peterson, and we just happened to start talking about District 6, and I knew that he had done a show around District 6, and I said, I'm thinking of writing a musical about District 6, and he said, oh, yeah, well, I want to write a musical as well. And we got together and discovered that that we had we were quite a good combination in that I was someone who worked with words and stories, and he was very good with music and harmony and arrangements. And so the combination of our strengths led us to write District 6, the musical, and many subsequent hits after that.
Awesome. Yeah. I know this is a question that's not relevant because you're not going to migrate. Maar as jy ooit moes immigreer, watter land dink jy sou jy gegaan het? En meer belangrik, wat dink jy sal jy die meeste van Suid-Afrika mis?
Okay, so ek het geëmigreer in 1977. So ek was al deur daai proses. Ja, net na die the 76 riots in 1977 besluit ek en my vrou ons met Amerika toe gaan, ons moet daar vir ons 'n nuwe lewe en loopbaan gaan soek. In daai jare was ek nog betrokke by die tekstielbedryf. Ek het 'n graad in tekstiel ontwerp, en ek het in 'n tekstielfabriek hierso in Worcester waar ek gebly het ek daar gewerk. Maar toe gaan ons oorsee, Amerika toe, en ek het 'n werk gekry in North Carolina. Maar toe ek daar aankom, toe besef ek nie, ek het 'n fout gemaak. En hierdie plek sal my nie pas nie. Het is amper meer rassisties as wat dit was in Suid-Afrika. So ons het nie die probleem ontsnap nie. Ja. En toe koop ons vir ons 'n Volkswagen Kombi, en ons ry van New York dwars deur Amerika tot in California tot by San Francisco. So ons het so 'n maand gevat om daai reis te onderneem. En dit was baie lekker, baie mooi land. Maar op die einde besluit ek het 'n beter begrip gehad van wie ek is en wat ek wil doen. En ek het besluit, ek kan nie my song skryf in Amerika nie. Ek moet maar terug gaan huis toe, want ek weet waaroor ek wil skryf. So dit was 'n interessante belewenis. Om dit te ontdek, jy weet. En toe kom ons weer terug huis toe, en dit is die rede hoekom ek nooit weer sal immigreer nie. So ek hoop dit antwoord jou vraag.
Ja, 100%, want ek bedoel, mense dink immigrasie is maklik. Ek dink dit is seker vir my en my vrou die moeilikste besluit om te neem. Ek is Suid-Afrikaner, ek sal doodgaan Suid-Afrikaner, so ek verstaan nou 100%. Nou, ek wil vir iets wys, want dis nou my persoonlike kolleksie. Alright? So, en dis was 'n rede hoekom ek dit vir jou wys, want dit gaan lei tot my volgende vraag. Okay, so, en dan het ek ook 'n vinyl. Alright. Okay, nou ek wil weet, want ek weet in Suid-Afrika verkoop niemand meer CD's. Ek was vandag hier in Australië by It's International Record Shop Day. So ons was daar, is so 'n winkel hier, so en daar's een winkel wat nog CD's en vinyl het 'n groot comeback gemaak. Wat ek wil weet, Hoe erg is dit vir Suid-Afrikaanse artists, nou dat niemand meer CD's en vinyl verkoop nie? Het dit julle inkomste erg benadeel?
Ja, dit het, ja. Daar's nie meer 'n bedryf nie. En Spotify het ingekom en alles van ons gesteel.
Yep. Ek weet jy het gelag toe jy dit gesien het. Maar kyk, ek was 'n fan van jou sedert 1981. Ek gaan raai, dit moes einde 1999 gewees het. Ek dink einde 1999 het ons Veldrif toe gery. Ek dink dit was 'n maakie tent of iets. En ek het al 3 CD covers saamgevat en ek gesê ek hoop en ek het hulle geteken gehad. En
ja, ek onthou ek het in 'n tent gespeel. Ja, ek onthou nog.
En dit is die enigste keer en daarna het ek gesien Guitar Blues en toe het ek geëmigreer. Wat ek wil weet, jy is klaar met David Kramer, musiek, jy gaan jou theater doen, gaan ons ooit, en ek weet ek moet nie sê CD of album nie, want dit bestaan nie meer nie, is David Kramer klaar met David Kramer songs, nuwe songs?
Ek kan nie sê nie, ek het geen planne om so iets, in die meeste, ja, soos ek sê, as ek nou skryf, is dit vir 'n nuwe musical waaraan ek werk. En op die oomblik, ek het 'n paar nuwe Afrikaanse liedjies geskryf wat gaan gebruik word in 'n nuwe musical waaraan ek werk. En dit is vir my dit is vir my baie lekker. En ek weet, ek kan nie sê daar gaan nie weer 'n soort van 'n vrystelling van hierdie liedjies wees nie. Miskien in 'n paar jaar se tyd is daar 'n versameling van interessante liedjies wat ek wil uitgee, net vir, jy weet, vir die geskiedenis daarvan. So ja, maar op die oomblik kan ek nie sê kyk uit vir die volgende CD of whatever.
Ja.
Nee.
En is jy klaar getoer?
Ekskuus tog?
Is jy klaar getoer? David Kramer doen nie meer live shows, David Kramer styl nie?
Ja, dis reg. Ja, ek het verlede jaar het ek opgehou. Ek het my laaste konserte gespeel by die KAK&K verlede jaar. En ja, so ek het nou besluit ek gaan nie weer op die verhoog optree nie.
Alright.
Maar ek is nog betrokke by ek is nog besig en ja, maar veral met die skryf en die regie van my stories.
Ja, dit weet ek, want wat ek aanbeweeg, want dit is 'n hartseerpuntjie, want ek het gehoop eendag gaan ek in Australië kan sien, maar ek verstaan dit 100%. En weet ook jy weet, jy het gemention Spotify.
Ja, dit is, daar is, ek kan dit nie meer doen nie, ongelukkig nie, maar ek het probleme met my gehoor, ek het ook 'n probleem met een van my hande, so ek kan dit nie waag nie, om op die verhoog 'n probleem op te tel nie.
Dankie vir daai persoonlike inligting. Jy het genoem Spotify. Nou, waarom is Spotify? As iemand nou na dit kyk en hy sê, damn it, ek sê daai David Kramer songs, waar gaan iemand so iets kry? Is daar 'n online website wat hierdie CD's en goed nog ergens gekoop kan word?
Kyk, ek het al my CD's deur CD Baby uitgegee. En dit gaan al jare aan. Ek dink so 15 jaar terug of meer het ek met CD Baby begin. En dit is in die jare toe hulle nog CD's verkoop het en jy kon dit download op die internet. Downloads was 'n ding en ons het nog geld gemaak uit downloads en so, jy weet, dit was 'n besigheid. Tot Spotify nou die hele ding opgemors het.
Ja.
En so dit gaan nog deur CD Baby en hulle versprei dit na mense soos iTunes en Amazon Music en dit gaan na Spotify toe en 'n hele klompie ander platforms, jy weet, wat hulle gebruik en ja, so daar is plekke waar jy dit kan kry. Ek sal aanraai dat mense na my YouTube kanaal toe gaan. Ek het 'n YouTube channel, David Kramer, en daar is amper elke video wat ek kon kry het van die verlede waar ek in optree of sing is op daai kanaal. En ook baie van die musicals, die liedjies uit die musicals is daar. So daar's 'n wye verskeidenheid van video's wat jy daar kan gaan kyk en luister. Ja, maar ek dink as jy soek, sal jy die liedjies kry wat jy wil hê.
Last question.
Ja, ek sal nie baie geld uitkry nie, maar dit is maar hoe dit is nou.
Ek is nog alskool. Ek bedoel, ek doen van my shows met CD's en dan doen ek dit live dan hakkie goed. Alright, dan sê my broer vir my, hoekom speel jy nie die goed van dit af van MP3's? Ek hou nog van, ek het vandag, en ek weet ek druk nou, vinnig by die recordshop 'n kaset gekoop, want ek het by die plekkie so 'n klein radiokaset met dingetjie gekoop, radio, en ek het ooit gesê, ek hou daarvan om iets te koop, want ek wil lees en ek wil dit, so ek is nog oudskool.
Ja, nee, ons is, oudskool, ons is oudskool en dis baie lekker, en hoe ons nou groot geword het met, jy weet, jy koop vir jou 'n langspeelplaat en 'n omslag en met baie, jy weet, daar is nou baie inligting en oor die kunstenaars en ja, dit was baie lekker en dit word deel van jou versameling.
Last question.
Mense deesdae het nie daai plesier nie.
Nee, het nie, want waarvan ek 'n MP3 kan download wat vir my sê alles van die beste. All right, last question. What must be written on David Kramer's tombstone?
Well, there won't be a tombstone. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I won't be buried in the ground. So there won't be a tombstone, but essentially, he's found his own way through the jungle.
Oh, that's beautiful. Ek wou David, so ek weet dit is 9 die oggend na by jou. Dit is vir my 'n groot hoogtepunt in my loopbaan. Ek is eintlik 'n onderwyser. Ek gaan een op jou drink en sê dankie namens al die mense in die wêreld en in Suid-Afrika vir al die plesier met jou songs, met jou shows, al die plesier wat jy vir ons gebring het. Have a brilliant rest of your life.
Bye, dankie, Kevin. Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hope your listeners have enjoyed it. And I just say hi to everybody and wish everyone all the best. Thank you for your support over the